young men in this country are in a crisis.
It's homophobia, it's sexism, it's racism, all rolled into this horrible thing that is just banter.
If you stand for what they stand for, you're a misogynist, and you're a dirty, stinking misogynist, and you have no right to reply. It's like, hey, no, I'm not. I just like looking at girls, and I like getting drunk, and I like football. Sorry.
Lad culture can quite easily spill over into sexual harassment and violence.
In answer to your question about what we do with these women, we take them into an office, we shake them and say, stop it, grow up. If you don't like it, turn around and tell them where to fucking go.
Lad culture. Why is it so popular? We all think we know what it means, but do we?
Some people say it's a new form of sexism and bullying. Others say it's just lads having a laugh.
This research project will critically examine lad culture at British universities.
Lad culture can be defined by the National Union of Students as group or pack mentality residing in activities such as sport, heavy alcohol consumption and banter, which can be seen as sexist, misogynistic and homophobic.
Judith Butler, a sociologist, argues in her gender performance theory that no one is a gender, yet merely a product of their social surroundings. In this research project, we seek to explore if laddish culture is a naturally performed trait of one's gender.
When we say gender is performed, we usually mean that we've taken on a role, we're acting in some way, and that our acting or our role playing is crucial to the gender that we are and the gender that we present to the world. We act as if that being of a man or that being of a woman is actually an internal reality or something that's simply true about us, a fact about us. Actually, it's a phenomenon that's being produced all the time and reproduced all the time. So to say gender is performative is to say that nobody really is a gender from the start. I know it's controversial, but that's my claim.
So we're going to pay a visit to the Director of Gender Studies at the University of Sussex to ask her if she thinks gender is performed.
I do agree that it's culturally formed and performed, but I think it has material and cultural aspects. And I think anybody who's had a baby will, have felt the effects of, certain biological elements of sex, as well as the structural and the performative aspects of gender. So I see gender as a kind of spectrum of performed gender identities.
To say that gender is performative is a little different, because for something to be performative means that it produces a series of effects. We act and walk and speak and talk in ways that consolidate an impression of being a man or being a woman.
Candice Armour is the Student Union President at the University of Brighton. We asked her what her opinion was of lad culture being performed.
It is a performance. For some reason, people do this thing. Let's try to understand why. Is it because people hate women? Because ultimately it's a manifestation of this hatred of women. But who knows? I think it is, at the core, it is about whether it's someone's actual identity, whether it's something that people believe in the depths of their soul, that this is the right thing to do and the right way to be, or if it's something about actually society is telling us this is fine, so we're just going to keep doing it. So really we need to challenge that.
Dr. Alison Phipps recently co-wrote the paper That's What She Said, critically examining lad culture at university. She also runs workshops to deal with lad culture and sexual violence in higher education.
I did a talk a couple of weeks ago to about 100 students, and a lot of them were men, and a lot of them came up to me afterwards to discuss the issues, and they're just brilliant. And they're not doing lad culture, they're doing other forms of masculinity which we need to really celebrate.
My name's Martin Daubney. I'm the former editor of Loaded. My great passion is being an outspoken voice for young men who I feel have a rough time in today's media, and nobody really sticks up for them. Okay, I think lad culture it's got to the stage now where it's kind of routinely identified as being the biggest scourge in sort of modern Britain.
We asked Martin what his thoughts were on the NUS paper that Alison co-wrote.
If you look at the NUS journal you sent over, the language being used in that is combative and it's discriminatory, in my opinion. They are saying things like Lad culture needs to be combated, it needs to be eradicated, it needs to be stamped out, it needs to be dealt with. This is like the words you'd use about a cockroach. You have a narrative on campuses that lads are a problem, both the lads and the women start to believe it. So they all start to believe that lads just want sort of no strings attached sex. But, a lot of girls perhaps may want that too. It's like it's always sort of paved out as a man's problem. The men are the problem and the women are the victims. And I think that's a toxic message.
Sally Peck, a columnist from The Telegraph, has a slightly different perspective on this subject.
We went to London to ask her what she thinks about lad culture at university, its effects and where it comes from.
Everything's a joke until someone doesn't feel comfortable with it. And we definitely want free speech. We want people to be able to express themselves. But I think with lad culture, what you're getting is actually a lot of bullying and a lot of women, but also of men to join in. And I think that there's pressure to perform in a laddish way, to conform to stereotypes. And you hear a lot of that, particularly from people who don't conform to stereotypes, saying, I felt that I should be playing a certain role, I should be displaying traditional male behavior, whatever that is. So yes, I think it is performance. I think we have to be careful. We can't go all the way the other way, and the second you see a group of teenage men out having a drink, say, ooh, laddish, they should be, playing violins, or it must be a mixed gender group at all times. I'm not saying that at all. And, I think we don't want to demonize people. What we do want to do is make sure that everyone feels that they have an equal opportunity to do anything they want.
Educational institutions, these are places people should be coming in and learning and bettering themselves, improving themselves. So they go out into society and they expect to see those values replicated within society. We need to make sure that our institutions are ironclad in their response to these kind of things, so we're sending people out into the world who actually think that's not on, and will challenge things, will feel comfortable to, and there'll be more people like that, so then more people will feel uncomfortable doing the lad culture thing.
There's a lot of evidence that forcing children to conform to gender stereotypes, and particularly to conform to an aggressive male stereotype, does lead to violence against women as adults, and also for girls to learn that they're not supposed to be assertive can lead to them also not being assertive when they're adults.
What we need to be really, really careful of is saying this thing exists, it's called lad culture, and I'm going to tell you why it's a problem, because they're saying nasty things to people. It underpins, violence against women. It contributes to sex assault. If you tell a guy for long enough that he's an animal, he'll probably start behaving like one.
Having been to the Lad Culture Summit, some of the experiences that were discussed, some of the people that shared their stories and also their research and findings, it's something that the way that they actually compiled everything, it was a really succinct portrayal of something you see every day and you're like, oh, that's not right. What is that?
Milo Yiannopoulos and Dr. Theo Koulouris have very different opinions about the issues surrounding lad culture. Milo, a controversial and well-published writer, feels that it is important to stand up for what he considers to be male virtues. Theo feels that lad culture is just a different name for sexist, misogynistic bullying. We conducted a debate in the studio to see if we could get to the heart of the matter.
So have British universities become combative of lad culture? Today, debating this topic, I'm pleased to welcome Milo Yiannopoulos, broadcaster and columnist, and Dr. Theo Koulouris, a senior lecturer in media studies and critical theory. So welcome. The National Union of Students defines lad culture as sexist, misogynistic and homophobic. At its extremes, rape-supportive attitudes, sexual harassment and violence. So what would you say to that?
What's a rape-supportive attitude? No one supports rape. It's ridiculous. I've read that report. It's it's a wonderful waste of paper. I too, to my shame, printed it. And yes, it is long, but it doesn't say very much. If you ask people to whine about pretty much anything, you'll find 40 women.
27% of women have been harassed, according to what they perceive as harassment.
Yes.
If they perceive it as harassment, then it is harassment.
No, it's not.
As an educator, when I translate that into numbers, that means that 15 of my female students and my women students this year have been harassed in my class.
But it's not true. It's not true. These women have been told that harassment is, is so broadly defined they can claim anything. Look at this false rape claim after false rape claim after false rape claim in the media, which indicates to us where people are defining sexual harassment and what women think they can get away with. I mean, if you start this with the presupposition, which I find incredibly patronising and offensive to women, that all women are victims, and that these women.
Nobody's saying that.
Well,
I'm saying that
if you start from that position, you're incapable of seeing women as the bad actors in some of this, and they are. And very often, women claim harassment where there was none, and very often, women say, "I feel harassed," which is effectively meaningless.
27% of women say that they feel to have been harassed. Now, if they feel they have been harassed, then are you saying that they're doing it because they want to get away with it, or that they want to feel important?
I'm saying that they need to grow up. What I'm saying,
do what? Allow men to say things?
No, and not. First of all, not use their sexuality as a weapon, which many of them are. They get approached by men who are already incredibly timid about approaching them at all. There are all these new rules about how men are allowed to relate to women. Nobody ever tells boys these rules. Nobody knows. No, these boys don't know. They go up. They might ask a girl out. I mean, you're talking about statistics from the sort of place that says that unwanted sexual approaches constitute harassment. That's in that definition. Well, you'd have to close down nightclubs if you don't want that to happen anymore. A man approaching a woman and being rebuffed. In my mother's generation, the woman would have said, "Get lost." Today, she's off to the guidance counsellor's office and filing a sexual harassment claim. We've got to stop making rape this thing that takes over the rest of your life. I mean, it doesn't have to. And it starts at university. When you tell these women that if you feel offended, you are offended, and you have every right to get somebody to go and rap him on the knuckles and say, "Don't behave like that to women." When they get out into the wider world, they get raped. Men are pigs. Yeah. Men are pigs. But there's nothing necessarily, but that doesn't mean that we should ban them from things or pathologise their behaviour or shame them publicly.
I wouldn't say pathologise, but
that's exactly what happens when we put them on drugs. I mean, how else do you describe it when you put a generation of young boys on Ritalin? If you put a generation of young boys on Ritalin, what are you doing besides pathologising them being boys?
Listen, they're putting boys on Ritalin not because they don't want them to be women, as it were, because there are no structures and support out there to deal with students or with young pupils who are really problematic.
Unfortunately, we need to wrap this up now, but please join the debate on Twitter with the hashtag #TheLadDebate.
Oh, Twitter.
Thank you for joining us. This debate was posted online. It got more and more heated and then continued on the Twitter hashtag.
What is clear is that there are strong different opinions on this topic, and it seems like all of our contributors feel passionate about their points of view and defending a section of society that they feel are unfairly represented.
We have found from our research that lad culture can be seen as gender performance. This topic seems to have really polarised opinions. The debate continues.